There are so many incredible cameras on the market right now, which makes it really hard to pick from. I recently purchased the Panasonic GH6. I chose it because it shoots 6K, can shoot low-cost anamorphic, and it has the open gate feature and dynamic range boost. Those are not the only reasons though. So let me break down what I was looking for in a camera, the cameras I was choosing between, and why I ultimately settled on the GH6. So what was I looking for in a camera? First, I wanted to be able to shoot 6K. I produce lots of videos delivered in 4K, but when you're shooting a talking head, it's nice to have a larger resolution to reframe and scale your footage whilst maintaining your resolution. I also film a lot of fitness content with my wife who does aerial yoga, and she's often going up and down within the frame, so I deliberately keep the framing really wide so that she's never cut off, because I can't get around and operate all the cameras at once. The problem with this is that the camera is then way too wide for a lot of the different moments, and if I'm shooting in 4K and then delivering in 4K, I don't have much room to crop in on the footage. So shooting in 6K and having all this extra resolution and the ability to reframe for my work is super handy. Next, I wanted a camera that produced really cinematic looking footage. When just creating everyday content, I'm mostly thinking about the basics. I want everything to be in focus and sharp and look good out of the box while in a smaller, more compressed format so it doesn't take up heaps of space. But for narrative filmmaking, I want a camera with excellent depth of field, which could mean having a full frame sensor. I'd also like the ability to shoot RAW, so I have the best footage to manipulate in the edit, and maybe even also be able to shoot anamorphic, which I have wanted to try for a while. Next, I wanted great stabilization. For all the types of things that I shoot, I'm typically running solo and with a short amount of time, so having the ability to shoot handheld, stabilized footage is really helpful. Of course, you can always use Steadicams or gimbals to smooth out your footage, but those take extra time to rig and balance, so those are tools that I use sparingly when I need to. One of the other nice to haves was having reliable autofocus. Of course, Lumix cameras are known for not having the greatest autofocus in the world, and to be honest, this is probably the biggest reason that I didn't buy the GH6 immediately. The final thing I was after was the price. I was looking for something under $2,500 or ideally under $2,000. Now, I know I was asking for a lot here, a camera packed with cinema-like features, full frame, but also great autofocus and under 2K. I realized that I would probably need to compromise on some of the things I wanted, or at least prioritize what was most important to me. So these are the cameras that I've had an eye on for a long time. I would love to get the Ronin 4D if money weren't an issue. The design of the camera has just been so well thought out. I love the built-in gimbal with the 4th axis. I love the LiDAR focus, but I also love the ability to use autofocus and then take over with manual focus. This just gives you the best of both worlds and opens up so many creative possibilities. Next, I've also used the Sony a7S III, and I really enjoyed its great image quality, full frame sensor, stabilization, awesome autofocus, and heaps of video-centric features. This is probably the first time that I've been really excited about a Sony camera. However, as soon as I think about my budget, these cameras are unfortunately out of my price range. So from the remaining, we have the Sony FX30. This camera packs most of the features from the a7S III and FX3, but under $2,000, which is insane. Two downsides are that it only has an APS-C sensor size and it only shoots up to 4K, but still an incredible camera for the price. Next is the Blackmagic 6K Pro, which I've been leaning towards buying for a really long time. It's definitely geared towards filmmakers with things like built-in ND filters. You can also record internally using Blackmagic RAW, which is one of the biggest selling points for me. The downsides though to the Blackmagic, which have held me back personally, are that it doesn't have in-body stabilization, doesn't have the best autofocus, and also doesn't have the greatest battery life. Which I know you can get a battery grip and improve on this, but ultimately for me, this camera doesn't really feel like the best run and gun camera, which is what I really need. I would definitely get this though if I was shooting exclusively in a studio or on film sets with a crew and more gear available to rig this out. Then there's the Canon R7, which is an incredible camera for its price point, though it does only shoot 4K and doesn't have the rich video features that Panasonic does. This brings me to the Panasonic S1, which is a camera that I've been shooting on for work for a couple of years now, and I really love. It's full frame, has a fantastic image, excellent stabilization, and takes great photos too. Then there's the Panasonic S5, which is also full frame and has a lot of the benefits of the S1, but is priced $500 cheaper, just under $2,000. This camera ended up in the second place for me alongside the GH6. It has many of the things that I'm after. It's full frame, has excellent image quality, but it also has great stabilization and a smaller form factor, so it's good for running and gunning. So ultimately, why did I choose the GH6 over the S5? The S5 has a full frame sensor, which means that it has better depth of field and potentially more of a cinematic look, which is what I said I was after. The GH6, on the other hand, only has a micro 4/3 sensor, which is a bit of a trade-off. But the upside to the smaller sensor is that the GH6 can record 6K 60 frames per second internally, which is just insane. So much higher resolution. The S5 can record 6K, but only externally, which would be great for shooting something high-end like a film when you want it in RAW or in ProRes. But for everyday shooting that I still want in 6K, I'd prefer a more compressed format, which the GH6 does give me. Open gate shooting on the GH6 also swayed me quite a lot. Typically, a camera sensor has more of a square shape or 4:3. Open gate shooting means the GH6 will record that entire 4:3 resolution, and you can just crop out the top and the bottom yourself in the edit. This is handy for me when shooting aerial yoga content, which I mentioned earlier, because my wife will often go really high and really low. So by having more vertical space, I can just digitally move the frame up and down in the edit. Another advantage of this 4:3 resolution is for anamorphic shooting. While anamorphic lenses are definitely more affordable than they used to be, they're still pretty expensive. I've been watching Sirui and the lenses that they've been putting out for a couple of years, as they're probably the most affordable anamorphic lenses out there. I've seen great reviews on Sirui's full frame anamorphic lenses, which look absolutely stunning on full frame cameras like the S1 or the S5. However, I noticed that Sirui's full frame anamorphic lenses are much more expensive than their micro 4/3 lenses. So for me, having the GH6 paired with Sirui micro 4/3 lenses was going to be a much cheaper entry point into anamorphic shooting, which to me looks and feels really cinematic. So I was happy to trade this for the full frame sensor that some of these other cameras offered. Also keep in mind that by using a Metabones speed booster on a micro 4/3 camera, you can increase your field of view, get closer to full frame, and get more light in, meaning that you can lower your f-stop and increase your depth of field. One other benefit of open gate shooting is for creating social content. By having that extra vertical space whenever you film any content, you've got all that extra height if you're trying to repurpose that content into social content, which is something that I do every day. Now, some other factors that determined my choice as well was that I already owned several micro 4/3 lenses, as well as Canon EF lenses paired with the Metabones speed booster. So it would be better for me to stick with that same ecosystem rather than switch to something like Sony and have to go out and purchase new lenses or adapters. Plus, as the icing on the cake, on Black Friday this year, the GH6 had $600 off its retail price, which then just made it very easy to pull the trigger on it in comparison to some of these other cameras that didn't have those discounts. But now I'd love to hear from you. What camera would you choose from this lineup and why? I've shared why this camera makes sense for me and the type of work that I do, but it could be completely different for you. If you're interested in learning more about shooting on the GH6 or filming anamorphic or raw video or anything else to do with video production, then make sure to subscribe to my channel as I plan to release a lot more content as I use the camera. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.